of Education, one of our regular meetings. Do I have any questions or additions to the agenda? If not, I'd like a motion to accept the agenda as is. So. Okay. Chris? All right, Shelley and Chris. Does that work? All right.
And tell you about the wonderful news we have. I'd like to play you a brief video. It's a TED Ed video, and I think that it speaks to some of the wonderful things that go on when our students are learning musical instruments.
Especially the visual, auditory, and motor cortex, and acting any other workout. Discipline, structured practice in playing music strengthens those brain functions, allowing us to apply that strength to other activities. The most obvious difference between listening to music and playing it is that the latter requires fine motor strength.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Calling a meeting to order for the Manistee Area Public Schools Board of Education. This is one of our regular meetings. Do I have any questions or additions to the agenda? If not, I'd like a motion to accept the agenda as is. So. Chris? All right, Shelley and Chris.
That works.
Does that work? All right. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries. And we move on to celebration of math success.
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Cindy Swanegan and students that she brought with her tonight.
Good evening. I'd like to start before I introduce my students and tell you about the wonderful news we have. I'd like to play you a brief video. It's a TED Ed video, and I think that it speaks to some of the wonderful things that go on when our students are learning musical instruments.
On the outside, they move along with focus, reading the music and making it precise and practicing things required. But inside their brains, there's a party going on. How do we know this? Well, in the last few decades, neuroscientists have made enormous breakthroughs in understanding how our brains work by monitoring them in real time with instruments like fMRI and PET scanners. When people are hooked up to these machines, tasks such as reading or doing math problems each have corresponding areas of the brain where activity can be observed. But when researchers got the participants to listen to music, they saw fireworks. Multiple areas of their brains were lighting up at once as they processed the sound, took it apart to understand elements like melody and rhythm, and then put it all back together into unified musical experience. And our brains do all this work in a split second between when we first hear the music and when our foot starts to tap on it. But when scientists turn from observing the brains of music listeners to those of musicians, the little backyard fireworks became a jubilee. It turns out that while listening to music engages the brain in some interesting activities, playing music is the brain's equivalent of a full-body workout. The neuroscientists saw multiple areas of the brain light up, simultaneously processing different information in intricate, interrelated, and astonishingly fast sequences. But what is it about making music that sets the brain alight? The research is still fairly new, but neuroscientists have a pretty good idea. Playing a musical instrument engages practically every area of the brain at once, especially the visual, auditory, and motor cortices. And as with any other workout, disciplined, structured practice in playing music strengthens those brain functions, allowing us to apply that strength to other activities. The most obvious difference between listening to music and playing it is that the latter requires fine motor skills, which are controlled in both hemispheres of the brain. It also combines the linguistic and mathematical precision in which the left hemisphere is more involved, with the novel and creative content that the right excels in. For these reasons, playing music has been found to increase the volume and activity in the brain's corpus callosum, the bridge between the two hemispheres, allowing messages to get across the brain faster and through more diverse routes. This may allow musicians to solve problems more effectively and creatively in both academic and social settings. Because making music also involves crafting and understanding its emotional content and message, musicians often have higher levels of executive function, a category of interlinked tasks that includes planning, strategizing, and attention to detail, and requires simultaneous analysis of both cognitive and emotional aspects. This ability also has an impact on how our memory systems work. And indeed, musicians exhibit enhanced memory functions, creating, storing, and retrieving memories more quickly and efficiently. Studies have found that musicians appear to use their highly connected brains to give each memory multiple tags, such as a conceptual tag, an emotional tag, an audio tag, and a contextual tag, like a good internet search engine. So how do we know that all these benefits are unique to music as opposed to, say, sports or painting? Or could it be that people who go into music were already smarter to begin with? Neuroscientists have explored these issues, but so far they have found that the artistic and aesthetic aspects of learning to play a musical instrument are different from any other activity style, including other arts. And several randomized studies of participants who showed the same levels of cognitive function and neural processing at the start found that those who were exposed to a period of music learning showed enhancement in multiple brain areas compared to the others. This recent research about the mental benefits of playing music has advanced our understanding of mental function, revealing the inner rhythms and complex interplay that make up the amazing orchestra of our brain.
I have two wonderful things to talk to you about. I have three students here from the 8th grade band tonight because the MMS 8th grade band was the one and only middle school band selected through a blind audition process to represent the very best of Michigan middle school bands at the Michigan Music Conference. That's the professional development conference for music teachers in Michigan. This conference covers band, orchestra, choir, elementary, jazz, piano. It's attended by public, private, charter school teachers, university teachers, student teachers, college students, and anyone interested in school music. The blind audition process that our students were chosen through, I had to fill out an application, get letters of recommendation from professionals in the field who've heard us play, send in a recording with no markings on either the CD or audio so that there was any way for anybody to know who we were. And all that application went in, and it was listened to by a panel of adjudicators who came up with the list of the 7 bands and orchestras that will be playing at the conference. There is one other middle school group. It's an orchestra, our band, and then the rest are high school bands and orchestras that will be playing. We're going to perform at 8 o'clock a.m. on Friday, January 23rd at DeVos Performance Hall in Grand Rapids. This is the second time in the past 33 years that a Manistee 8th grade band has been chosen, and the 6th time that a Manistee band has been chosen. The high school band here has been chosen to perform 4 times, the most recent being in 2008. And quite frankly, most schools have never been invited. While the concert is a ticketed event and the audience will be mainly music teachers, the students will be playing also for family and friends, and as we receive 2 tickets per student and adult to come and attend the concert. We'd love to have any of our school administration and board that would like to come in and listen to us perform. Just let me know how many tickets you like. The concert's 45 minutes long, and that's a lot of music, especially at this age level when they're used to playing about 15 minutes or so. 45 minutes is a lot. We've been working really hard, and I would like to offer any students that have something that they'd like to say. Evan, did you have something you wanted to say? And I saw what Evan wrote tonight. I didn't ask him to do this. Evan? This is Evan Bowman.
My name is Evan Bowman, and I play the trumpet. I'm here to talk about our trip. Me and my classmates are very blessed to have a wonderful teacher like Miss Juanita and able to go to this trip. This trip is going to be the best of the best. We are the only middle school class from Michigan participating, going to DeVos and Grand Rapids, where we are going to play and listen. If you came out on January 23rd, 2015, we are the first ones to play that day. See you there.
I have one more piece of exciting news. Manistee is very excited to announce that we have 3 students who were selected for the Michigan All-State Bands. Before I announce their names, I think it's really important to note that there is 1 All-State Middle School Band and 1 All-State High School Band in the state. There are no divisions or classifications, so our students are competing for spots in these ensembles against students from Bloomfield Hills, Okemos, Clarkston, and the Detroit School of the Arts, and other such prestigious school systems where students have the ability and the availability for private lessons with symphony-level players and multiple teachers within one band class, let alone within the school system. The students are chosen through a blind audition process very similar to the one I described earlier for bands. The adjudicators that listen to their audition process have no idea who they're listening to or where they're from. These students must learn music that's really hard, play many scales, and then on the day of the audition, they also have to play music that they've never seen. The auditions are recorded, and if you've ever just recorded and gotten no feedback from anybody, you know that's a pretty daunting task, and especially for a 7th or 8th grader to do. These auditions are recorded, and those recordings are then sent to our MSBOA state office in Okemos. They are separated into level, middle school and high school, and instrument, and respected judges from around the state receive all of the recordings for a given instrument and level. For example, one person will receive all the middle school trumpet auditions. Another judge receives all the high school trumpets. Another one will get all the middle school clarinets, and so on. So that judge hears every student in the state and ranks them, rank order. The chance of a student in a small northern Michigan school to make these ensembles, quite frankly, is really hard and really low. And now our great news. Sarah Kislett, a senior, has scored high enough to be chosen the first chair contra clarinet player in the state for the All-State High School Band. First chair means she scored better than anyone else in the state on that instrument. Liam Quinn, a 7th grader, has placed in the All-State Middle School Band on French horn. That means he scored among the 9 best French horn players in middle school in the state. And Emily Thomas, who's here with us tonight, stand up, Emily, is an 8th grader, and she scored high enough to be chosen the first chair flute player in the state for the All-State Middle School Band. That means she scored better than any other flute player in the state of Michigan on that audition. These students will also perform at the Michigan Music Conference. They will be studying under nationally known composers and conductors. John Thompson of New Trier High School in Wilmette, Illinois for the high school, and composer Sam Hazo for the middle school. They will arrive on Thursday the 22nd, begin rehearsals at noon, lasting until 5. They'll rehearse all day on Friday, and Saturday morning, these groups will present their gala concerts in DeVos Performance Hall. I am one proud teacher. You should.
Cindy, we're one proud board. It's been great having you here, and look forward to much more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else, John?
No,
That's
that's
more than
awesome. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you all. We move on now to public communications. This portion of the agenda is for persons to address the board. Public communication and comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. This is only for those items that appear on the agenda. The second public communication and comment period is scheduled at the end of the meeting. Do we have it? We do not. Thank you. Then, moving on, do we have anything from our student representatives? Okay.
All right, last Friday, during the 3rd hour, we had our next class meeting. 12 attended. I was not in those 12. And then they talked about respect. I am.
Good.
All right. So they talked about respect, and they talked about student-to-student respect, and they said that it's very good. There are no cliques, really. They're more mature, they're more diverse, rather than people just classified as jocks, nerds, and hipsters. However, we did notice that there was some issues with respecting from student to building. The janitors said that they were shocked and surprised on how students will treat the building that we have. We are very fortunate to have such a new building in 2003. I think that's what it was. So we're fairly new, whereas like schools in Lansing that are really, really old and they have to really take care of their buildings. Some examples, doors in the bathroom have been knocked out because people will lock them and kick them. There has been some incidences in the locker rooms where disrespect has been shown. Also in classrooms, desks will be drawn on and the floor is pretty mess and just reckless. We've thought of a few ways to figure out this issue. We thought about showing a video. You could either go 2 ways about it. We could show it at like an assembly or at lunchtime. And we could either do like a funny kind of video, like a Jefferson is the hit song that's saying, well, we're not going to do that for middle school, we do something for the chip or something. Or we could do like a serious video, kind of like the no texting while driving, one of those ones that are not really heavy. But we would like to address the issue of student, the relationship between student and adult respect. Yep.
Good. That's a great idea. So go with it. Give us your excellent. I like the idea of the video.
Do you need any help from us on that, or?
I don't think so. I think we thought it would be a good idea to ask the video productions class.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, good idea.
Any other ones? Okay. Moving on then to correspondence and superintendent's report.
I don't know if there's any questions on the MC 2020 report. If not, I'll go to the personnel report. report, we had some hires. Dave Buckingham, boys JV basketball coach, Andy Tiefenthal, boys 7th grade basketball coach, Dave Bond has been helping out for years. He's actually in a position, a volunteer position in wrestling. Jamie Tipton we hired as a parapro, Austin Stilinski we hired as a parapro, and Joanne Muma is someone that we added in our drama class for our face-to-face homeschool. She just teaches like an hour a week or so. Lisa Bejan resigned as a parapro, and a couple retirements that are notable with Gene Soltis and Mike Soriano, and then Mike's position, we are in the process of posting it, maybe filled internally, which would then, when it's all said and done, we're going to have posting there somewhere. So, fair amount happened in the last month. So, yeah.
Comments or questions? All right, moving on then.
Leadership team, if you have any questions on that, or, all right, finance report. I don't know if there's questions. Howard, did you have?
Yep, we've included the finance report. I don't know if anybody didn't get any questions, but I'd be happy to answer them. Things seem to be about where you'd expect them to be. You may notice that the 113 to the high school has a little less available than some of the other areas, and that's, we need to take a look at how we distributed the power learning funds. I have a feeling we've done it into the high school, and that probably accounts for that, but we'll get those moved around. Other than that, things look like, where you'd expect to see them this time of the year.
Any questions? If not, moving on. Policy review.
Yep, we had the bylaws that we reviewed last time and made some changes, and those are included. I don't know if you have any comments or questions on those. If not, we consider them read a second time, and they would be up for adoption later in this meeting.
That's just that's the single one of our bylaws.
Right. Yep. And then, as a review, we added policies 5111 through 5130, and as I read through those, just a lot of boilerplate policy. I didn't really notice anything, but I don't know if you guys had anything that you wanted to suggest or change. They look pretty standard and non-controversial to me.
I had a couple of just questions, and
Yep.
maybe not to put anybody on the spot, but for clarification, you get to that first one, eligibility of resident.
What number?
It's the first one, 5111. You get down to G, and it talks about students and parents who do not reside, and then it talks about enrolled in a school of this district as tuition students.
We just don't. This is the boilerplate policy we get from Neola. Howard, do you ever remember any tuition students we've had here in your tenure?
No, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, so it's there, but we just haven't.
It just, the other ones are all tuition-free, tuition-free,
Yeah, yeah.
so they had a tuition.
Yeah, there are some weird cases where you have to, where you can. I know, like, for instance, I had a situation one time where a foreign exchange student wanted to attend the second year. They had to get a certain visa, and then they had to pay tuition. So, I mean, it does happen, but it's extremely, extremely rare.
And then you get back to 5113, and it's, like I say, it's more clarification on the second page. H under tuition students, and this is in school of choice program. So we do have the option, I guess, if the board has to act on that, if we close down outside acceptance rate.
Yeah, we've opted in, and that's one of the best practices, isn't it, Howard? Or it used to be that you participate in school of choice.
Yes, I don't know if it currently is, but at one time it was.
I can't remember if it is this year or not, but I thought it was. If not, I think it might be. I'm not sure. But anyway, it has been in the past, and we've always just accepted it and actually, I think, done quite well regarding school of choice. We have many more come in than go out.
It's only comments I had.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? The one, I guess, comment was whether or not the amount of review was
Right.
good enough. Are we comfortable with the volume that we're getting on a monthly basis? Too much, is it too little? We're on a 3-year rotation with reviewing our bylaws right now. And we need to accomplish that every 2 years.
Perfect. Good piece.
Okay, good.
It's about the right amount, and it gives you enough time to look at it and have quite utility.
Good. Good.
Definitely much better than just doing all at once.
Oh, it's impossible to do all at once. It's yeah.
All right. Moving on to number F, MHS Girls State Swimming Championship bracket.
Yeah, we had 2 travels. Like, did the band one not get in?
It wasn't,
Did not.
it was just being discussed. It
No,
wasn't-
remember I forwarded you the email. But anyway.
I didn't.
Okay, so the band has got that trip that they just talked about, because they're going to be heading down overnight on that one. And then the swim, we'll get you something on that. But those overnight trips get approved, they get discussed with me, and I make sure that they have, certain things in place. And then those get approved. The swim had one for the state championship, right, Corey?
Yes.
Yep, they had that couple 3 weeks ago, and you have a note in there about the particulars on that. And
Did we approve that?
well, I don't know. I informed you of it. Yeah, I'm not sure if I did officially or not. But.
I think we talked about the conference format.
Ah, there you go. That's what it was.
And then this is
That's what you would know, wouldn't you? Yes, it was. That's exactly what it was. They went down to the conference and yep. Good, thank you. Bail me out.
Anything else?
No, not
Moving on to review of our meeting schedule. We'll be approving this in January when we have our organizational meeting. What we don't have here necessarily is when baccalaureate is, graduation. As long as, Nancy, you're in charge of that and making sure.
However, I did consult with Beth Forbes, and if you see the second sheet afterwards, that indicates what events are going on those particular days at the same meeting. So many of you are parents and involved in. If there's any major conflict, then it would be best if we know about it now so we can reschedule before the January meeting. It'd be wonderful. As you can see, we do have a couple of needs for rescheduling, but most of them are the work study.
I don't know in 4 or 5 years if we've had a conflict with the primary, the regular meeting.
Right.
It's always
It's usually the
that
work
second-
study,
which is
work
never a
study.
problem.
Yeah. So you got a couple that,
The conferences for the superintendents, as
Yeah.
well as Thanksgiving Eve is one.
I'm looking at May 27th, very well could end up being baccalaureate, and we don't schedule that, but we generally get informed. You know, Julia, when we get informed of that one? Baccalaureate, do we get informed of that?
It's on our high school calendar.
So we already know? So anyway, we'll get the work studies ones cleaned up and get you more information, have that ready for you. But you're planning on going this pretty much the same.
Nancy, could you, if you didn't already, forward a copy of this to Mr. Edmondson?
Yes, you received one, did you not? Yes.
You got it?
Mhm. Yes.
So,
Thank you.
a couple of those we planned, I would see it says rescheduled. I might be missing something, but it's like February 25th, August 26th, there's some significant reason why we,
I can't recall by the name, I'm sorry.
This is 26th.
Oh, the 25th would be for us for MASB, I believe.
The 26th is a JV football game against Lebanon. That's almost that right now.
Yeah.
The 25th is free,
Of
though,
August.
according to Beth.
That's what we ran into this year was the Ludington,
I would like to reschedule
but I don't know in February.
When is it that we have the MASB with coming in for both January.
That's usually
Oh,
October,
that's why,
November.
that's why. I see why. That's why, I get what you're saying. So what Nancy's saying is that the January, I already have dates. I sent those out to you before when Scott was going to be coming in. So we need to get those dates in here because we already know what they are. He's committed to coming in those at that time.
They're different.
So those become the what works
And at
studies?
the time, they worked for everybody, so we'll just double check.
Yeah, we were in
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why, right? I thought you meant like that state conference. You're talking our guy coming in. Gotcha. Yeah.
All right. Any other comments about it? Okay. Moving on then. Michigan Department of Education Culture Reading Program.
Yeah, it was a neat thing. So, our first grade was selected. There were 115 elementary schools in Michigan that will receive their own books to read and take home. And the first award, the Michigan Department of Education's Culture of Reading Program. There were 740 applications requesting over 23,000 books, and Jefferson's first grade was selected. So that was what happened. And I don't know exactly when those books will get here. We have several principals that are at school-related functions tonight. If you're wondering why they're not here, but I'm not sure when those books are going to get here, but when they are, we'll. Obviously, it's something that we wanted and applied for, and we have to receive.
Will we have to read them all?
I don't know that you'll have to read them all, but yeah, might be good for you. You don't have to. You don't have any of that. Yeah.
How was the application for them?
Jefferson applied, and I don't know what the criteria was, but kudos to them for applying and getting that grant.
So they applied all grades, and we just got that one, or we just?
I'm not sure what which grades we applied at. I see they awarded through multiple grades, but it was just our first grade.
Good.
Moving on to IAP update.
Yep, I'm going to ask the principals for some help in explaining what has been going on here, what we've been finding out as we've implemented our second cycle of interim assessment process with us.
Okay, I'll speak a little bit from the elementary to start with. We made a lot of gains. We'll show a graph here in a minute. And you notice we have all different color codes now. We used to have just red, yellow, and green. But through some suggestions from our staff, Amplify has changed their program because of us, for everybody, to make it more user-friendly. And you can see in a little bit more detail what's happening. So left to right, the first IEP versus the second one. First one was not really pretty, obviously, with a lot of red.
It's a pilot. It's a pilot.
It's all about growth.
Starting.
But from 1 to 2 in 6 weeks, you see some major gains, basically reduction in red. As we move up, our kids are doing better. And so I can't imagine what it's look like, get towards the end of the year if we haven't done 4 and 5 weeks. So let's kind of scan through those grade levels and pretty common through amount of growth.
You'll see some gray areas. Those are either their constructed response, that's where students are writing, or they're doing extended math problems. We call those paper pencil tasks. So they don't show up in this report, but teachers have access to their students' results. So the students are, I think they're used to interfacing with the technology. I think they're a little more calm about the IAP. And our results have really led to some powerful discoveries about our professional development and what we need to do to address our students' needs. Yeah, that was all writing for 12th grade. So based on, teachers get to see individual students, they get to see actual content areas. You can pull up what your students responded. When they take the IAP, at the end, they get a window that takes them through right in that moment what they did and what they might want to study next. Teachers have access to kind of a pre-built schematic about student misconceptions. It's particularly helpful in math. So, some of the things that I know we're working on in the high school, we realized that Mice and Men is a great book, but it's not necessarily what we call complex text. So we've been working on, bringing complex text to 9th, 10th, and 11th. Sorry, kids. They know. And also we're adding more vocabulary in science and social studies to support those ELA goals.
I'm speaking for, to do this report right here is very difficult because the teachers have found so many things that they want to do and improve on. To narrow it down to a very small scope for you guys to see tonight, they're doing a whole lot more than we're seeing on the board. And they can articulate exactly what kids need when they're working with them, how they're doing it. And it's been a very powerful tool.
Just a quick comment. I'm sure each teacher has to change the dynamic for each classroom. Target specific things, but when we look at the big target areas, those are the things that we've identified kind of throughout that grade level that all of us need to think about. It gives us big pictures, and yes, that's what we need to hear about, little pictures for the teachers.
Right. If you were to see the source document for this, it would be about 56 pages long that our teachers are working on and identifying large group instruction and also small group interventions. So math, you'll see we have more targets in math because I think you'll see from our math tests that there's some, oops, back to the beginning. Sorry. So 2nd grade math. This math was a paper pencil for the first one. And you can see some general growth and some gains. 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, a lot of work. 9th grade, we're working on it. It's a very challenging assessment, and that's why we chose Amplify. It is very rigorous, and it's not always pretty, but students take a lot of time to review their work in class with the teacher, and sometimes it's our students that have the, oh, macaroni and cheese isn't in pounds, it's in ounces moment.
Julie, back on that slide.
Sure.
I think that for their 8th graders, the top 2.
Yeah, this is the 8th grade section of algebra, and these are our 9th graders on the same assessment. And I don't know why this didn't copy through, but it shows up on the teacher view, it just doesn't show up on this report. And that helps us guide instruction as well. Geometry, Algebra 2, and then 12th grade trigonometry, and then, we have all kinds, there's statistics, pre-calc, AP calc, and we just rate them into here. But again, most importantly, isn't the data. It's what our teachers are learning and changing in instruction, and what are students learning. And to do this in a turnaround of 6 weeks is hugely powerful. And Sarah, do you have anything to comment about your IAP?
I'll say something. In my English class, between taking the first IAP and the second IAP, there was a difference in the way the teacher taught and like what we did in the class. I mean, we're doing stuff like Socratic seminars, and from when we first did the IAP, we were bad at it, but now she's bragging us up, and now we're having other teachers come in and listen to us. But I didn't really notice it until I saw the sign. I was like, wow, I guess we're really, really improving. But the IEP has helped to measure and just measure our
Any questions from the board? Is there a stress level increase for the students with the IEP?
I think so, but it's not a lot. I feel like it's a good time.
I think our stress level, we're working on stress level with our staff sometimes because they take it very seriously and they take it very personally sometimes, which is great. But again, we're learning. We're learning too. And there's not a lot of other districts in the state that are doing this, so we're paving the way, and we're making growth, and that's what it's all about.
That change they made in that reporting,
Yes.
you said they've done that for all the schools that they've served now?
We're offering it as a program now. So.
Yeah.
And our teachers haven't seen these reports yet. They're going to be very, very happy.
Way more useful than the way it was reported before. And again, I just compliment I'm proud of our staff and our administration. There's a lot of work and a lot of anxiety that has gone into this because I think, let me ask you this, it's not a leading question, to be honest with you. Was there more stress over the first one than there was the second one or not?
Yes.
Yes, and I think there was with teachers as well. And I think we're starting, we stuck with it, we made some modifications, but again, I'm just proud of the students, proud of the staff, proud of the administration. I can't wait to see what the results will be this spring with our state testing and then even the next couple of years.
Last week, Ken, Jason, Andy, and Matt and I presented an annual principal's meeting in Traverse City. And we created this video. Tim Foyer, former graduate, put this all together. And a short video clip kind of highlighting our IAP process. And there was several schools that were after were very interested in how they get on board. And actually got an email about an hour ago from the conference that a lot of other people that didn't make our session want to be able to access our presentation. So I don't know if we want to start marketing and selling it, but Tim did an excellent job on this video.
Of course he did. I was his teacher.
About every 6 weeks, we give them an assessment, and it's going over what we've taught so far, and we're checking to see which standards the students are doing well on, which standards they're weak in, and it allows us to not only to see as teachers, okay, what do we need to revisit, which students, but it also allows us to look at individual students and say, hey, these 15 got it great, but these five kids are still struggling. I need to meet with them in a small group. I need to pull them aside and work with subtraction or multiplication or multi-step problems and decide which activities you need to go over more as a whole class and which one are just a small group. Instead of just having the worksheet on an iPad, they're doing cool things and stuff that they're excited to take home and show, and having the ability to be proud of something. One of the ones that I know the kids really enjoyed was done in social studies, and it was a keynote presentation, and we were working on USA physical and human characteristics. You had to combine multiple resources and put it into their own presentation and then present to the class. Did a little unit on gravity, and I had them make a movie trailer that explained what gravity was. I think they learn from each other. Sometimes students will show them the same thing that I showed them and yet understand it that much better because it came from somebody else. They're excited to show their friend what game they're doing, and then their friend wants to get in that game and see how they can do that. So they're teaching each other how to learn. standards that our students were weak on, we can go in and find some questions that cover exactly those standards. If they're starting to slide backwards, we can catch them sooner and fill those gaps and fix those problems before we move on.
The depth of knowledge questions that are accessible on the IEP help to provide more resources for the students so that I feel we can challenge them with those types of questions.
I think it helps me even more so know where my kids are at, because most teachers would say, I know where this child's at, I know where this one is at, but I can sit down with the parents specifically and say, this is what I saw, this is what they're doing really well at, this is what I'm concerned about really specifically, so it's helping me give parents a response to what they do at home too. It's just a lot more accurate.
Look at an assessment that we're going to give, and I know what standards are being covered, I choose the quick checks that align to that standard just to kind of see where they're at before the test and how much more needs to be prepared.
It helps me in between IEPs. To me, the IEP is kind of like a bigger assessment check, and so in between I want to see how they're doing so that I know they're on track and just continuing it, so it just shows me where they're at.
I usually do a quick check almost every Friday. I look at the standards that I had taught that week, and my goal on the quick check is to see how well I taught the standard. So I look for a quick check that has the standards that I taught. I assign that to the students, and if the students aren't passing the quick check, then I either pull small groups based on the results, and it's only a few kids that aren't getting it, or I reteach it as the whole class and just balance it.
So it just makes it easy for the kids to be able to be where they are and work on what they need to.
It's also available on YouTube. So
How many hits have you got? Gotta check We're looking for thousands. Any other questions or comments about the IEP? Let's move on to our alternative pilot.
We've been looking over our data, which is no surprise. And what we're noticing is that some of our students would really benefit from some alternative ways to earn credit. We have an in-house lab with Novanet where students can take online classes and get some support, but we're noticing that we've had a large number of students come in that have been in our school district less than 18 months who have truancy issues. We've partnered with the Department of Human Services. We have students that have been supported with a lot of interventions and are still struggling. So we're looking at a pilot for next semester. It's called the Seat Time Waiver Pilot, where our students are able to kind of go off-roading and take more online courses that are more balanced for their ability level. So when we look at our transfers for the last 5 years for grades 7, 12 in maps, you'll see that first year, 2010-11, was the first year that the Michigan Merit Curriculum came out, and a number of our students really struggled. The blue lines are students that transferred to an alternative setting. It's an alternative school, whether here or somewhere else in Michigan. When we had Yes Academy, we had a number of students that were supported within our district, and now we're seeing in the last 2 years a trend of students moving towards cyber schools to meet their needs. So while we worked very hard at supporting our at-risk students, we've really realized that there's about 3 to 5% of students that, despite all of our interventions and all of our supports, still really struggle in the traditional school model. semester 2 pilot uses a seat time so that students can work non-traditional school hours. We would have a part-time lab open to make those personal connections, preferably off campus. And for the pilot, we're able to use staffing that we have in-house. So probably about 10 to 15 students. This gives us an opportunity to pilot some new software. Again, that better meets the needs of this small group of students. Looking into the future, you know, I went back over the past 5 years, and all of those students, this is just who transferred to an alternative school setting. Had we been able to retain those students, we would have also had over $1.5 million in additional revenue. Even if we can retain 10% of the students that we've lost, we would be able to really fund kind of a more long-term program, and I think do a very responsible service to our students. So with your permission, we'd like to try this for second semester and see where it goes.
I have a question.
Yes.
It'd still be part of MAPS.
Absolutely. In fact, it's part of Manistee High School for the pilot.
Okay. And why would you do it off campus?
That's a really good question. I went, Brian Bain, Todd Miller, Chris Cotton. We visited a school in Plainwell. It's a very successful alternative program that has pretty good graduation rates, and we were able to talk to the students and the teachers and the administrators there. And one of the things that the students brought up is that they felt much more confident and a lot less distracted in a smaller setting. Some of the students that we talked to talked about just there's a lot of distractions and a lot of they call it drama going on, and they really want to graduate. They want to keep their eye on the prize and just have school.
So we're talking about renting a facility or renting a building to have this in.
Well, we have a church group that is interested in hosting us as part of their youth outreach. So we talked with John a little bit about having an insurance policy that would cover, and our insurance does. We might have to boost up the Wi-Fi a little bit, but for 10 to 15 students for a pilot, it really gives us the opportunity to have some trial and error. And actually, I honestly feel that if we don't have something, these 3 to 5% of our students will go elsewhere. If we don't have something for them, they'll go somewhere else.
Okay, where do the people come from that are going to run the school?
Well, right now,
I know it's still in the beginning stages.
It is.
I have a lot of questions.
Well, what you look for when you're starting something new are those people who are excited to join. And Todd Miller has experience with alternative school settings, and Chris Cotton has experience with non-traditional students and sports and online classes, and really running programs year-round, which is something else that would be very attractive for us in terms of getting students to graduation.
So who fills their positions that they currently do if they run this?
Well, I'm very lucky that Todd and Chris are a little bit crazy, and we're able to kind of concentrate our Novanet classes to free up Chris for a couple of hours. And Todd assures me that with our help, that he'll be able to do double duty for a short time during his pilot period.
Okay. If this doesn't work, what happens to these?
Then we go back, well then we learn and we make what we have what's successful now more successful. And if the pilot is successful, then I'll be coming back to you with that information so that you can make an informed decision.
You don't need a teacher to have this?
With the seat time waiver, any teacher can be the teacher of record. Right now, I'm the teacher of record for all of our seat time waiver students. So that would just continue to a different setting.
What's this criteria do we have a standard criteria that you know when a student needs to move to this part, or is it kind of like, I mean, is it analyzed?
Yes. For our pilot program, we have a number of students who are, they're in substance abuse recovery programs. They have medical needs. Some students have just tried everything. Our study skills class, they've tried Novinet, they've been in tutoring, they're in summer school, they're in our interventions, and they're to the point where they just feel that they would be better off in a cyber school environment or in an alternative school environment. And so we want, they've invested in Manistee Area Public Schools, and we've invested in them, and we want those students to graduate with us.
So we're essentially talking two people. Okay.
Plus Novinet, I mean, that's going to continue.
That covers it. We have a seat, or we have a license where we can pile on as many students as we can.
So who, if someone, Todd Miller's running it, for example, who does he report to? Is that something we need to discuss yet?
Well, for the pilot, the EEM code is for Manistee High School, so technically it would be you and me and John.
That's something we could discuss, is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I imagine in the future, most alternative schools, once you have an alternative school with its own EEM code under MAPS, they actually have more flexibility. I think you've read about Casman, who has, if you've attended school Monday through Thursday, you don't have to come in on Friday. So there's some legislation that really supports alternative schools. And I would be interested in exploring that.
Are we voting on this tonight?
Well, we weren't asking for a vote. But we are asking. I mean, here's.
There's someone to answer your question.
Well, there are, and this is so. At the point where we were to establish the program long term in a separate building code, like next school year, I think we would be asking for a vote. As it is now, it's really more of an intervention that we're putting in place within the current structure. It stays within our current building code. It stays within our current staffing levels. We try to think of something that would be similar that we would do. We made some changes in homework study at this building. That is just kind of, at this point, I think it's more of a, if you have questions or concerns, we want to address those. It's certainly within your ability to say you're not in favor of it. But I think what we're asking for is the flexibility to say we want to try it, we have a plan. We can come back at a actually January meeting, I think is before we would start this. We would come back in January with much more detail, but with the idea that we would be implementing it for second semester.
We have some very enthusiastic and experienced staff members who.
Are you going to do kind of work the same assessment program, that ideas? I don't think it's going to be a model, but I mean, it's going to be a model, but it's not. You can't use the same, probably the same thing that you're using in the regular environment. Is that going to be?
That's correct. Some of the students we
So
might
you'll
have-
be able to see, make sure that the kids are.
The offer that I'm talking about. And we'd even tried to get out of the primary offer at one point so we could take the backup offer because it was higher, and we couldn't do that. So we still have two offers on it, and I'm being assured the first one is absolutely going to close, but we're just going to have to wait until March. And I don't think that really impacts us in any significant way, provided it closes in March.
Well, when's that? About 6 month period?
Well, the 6 month was up in like August or something, and then now they're in the extension period.
So when is that extension?
March.
I was gonna say, if we get another offer, that day shows up.
Well, if they don't close in that period, I guarantee you we're gonna be going with a backup offer. Yeah, but given this purchaser's history and of doing this in other places and whatnot, I think it's a solid offer. Because we even went, the secondary offer was high enough that we offered to kind of buy our way out of the first offer. They weren't interested, so I can't believe they're just going to walk away from it after having put more money into it. So I think it's a solid offer.
Thank you. Any other questions? Moving on to business action items. Shelley, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. Did everybody get a chance to read over these closed session meetings? About minutes that I just, okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the regular board meeting minutes from November 12th, along with those closed session minutes on the same date, and also November 24th, special session and closed session.
Second.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. That motion carries.